Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. And we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Day of the Office Lectionary. I thought for today, Thursday, we would go ahead and take a look at the lesson that's assigned, the second lesson for evening prayer tonight. And we continue our way through St. Peter's first general epistle, second chapter beginning at verse 11. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be the king as supreme, or unto governors, as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free and not using your liberty as a cloak of maliciousness, but as servants of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Okay, so here we have some interesting. Peter's talking about how it is that we interact with those who are outside of the church, right? Those who are not members of the body of Christ yet. And he says, first of all, that since you're strangers and pilgrims on earth, in other words, our ultimate joy and our real habitation will be forever in heaven with God. First of all, we're to abstain from fleshly lusts. The urges and desires of the flesh will draw us away from the love of God. It'll prevent us from seeing clearly how God would have us live. And especially in our culture today, and I'm sure this was true in all cultures, but with the advent of social media and all of those things, and the internet itself, the fleshly lusts are becoming more and more prominent. And then the members of the church, as well as those outside, have done their best to try to justify all sorts of deviations from the biblical model for a man and a woman joined together in holy matrimony. So stay away from those fleshly lusts, because they war against the soul. But then he goes on to talk about our conversation with the Gentiles, that we in fact do good works, right? Not because they're the way we are saved. We do good works because they're the fruit of the new life that we're living as members of the body of Christ. But these things will be ways in which we will be witnesses to the Gentiles, to those outside of the church. By doing good, by loving God and loving our neighbors ourselves, we will be a witness to the world of who God is calling us to be, and hopefully calling people into relationship with him. But this last line is interesting. Honor all men. Well, of course, we respect the human dignity of all human beings. We honor all men. We love the brotherhood, right? And we have special affection for those who are members of the body of Christ, the church. Fear God, obviously, but honor the king. And of course, in our culture, we don't have a king. We have elected officials. Now, he says that we are to be, look at the governors and to them that are sent by God for the punishment of the evildoers and the praise of them that do well. So we do have to continue to pray for our elected leaders and for those who have a king, right? They obviously pray for a king or a queen if they have one. But in the end, of course, we ultimately have to do God's will first. If our elected officials are trying to get us to do things that are contrary to the will of God, as we understand it in scriptures, then we must object charitably but firmly. We don't acquiesce just because they are the elected official. We work within legal means and godly means and charitable means, but we work nonetheless to overturn those unjust laws, those unbiblical laws that would prevent us from being the people, the culture that God is calling us to be. We are to influence the world in order for people to see more clearly how God is working among us and trying to bring people to himself. So today's Thursday. We have 9 a.m. Holy Communion today, and then 4 o'clock evening prayer. I do hope that you can join us, if not in person, on the live stream. We're watching this meditation. And may God give you a Thursday that is full of blessings.